What's going on, guys? I know it's been a hot minute since I've done a video, but I just wanted to share this insane gimmick puppet list I've been playing, and I won actually a 3v3 with the list. Me and my buddies, Austin and Jason, shout out to them. They played Pearly, so they kind of carried me throughout the tournament because I was playing a rogue deck. But the deck still performed well, so I just wanted to share basically the list. And without further ado, I'll just jump right into it. First up, we have Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, obviously the boss monster of the deck. Really insane, level 8, just a great monster overall. You want to find him as soon as possible. Next up, we have Aluber. He's the second best Gimmick Puppet. He gets you to all like the fusion side of your engine. That way you can find Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. And then next up, we have probably the two worst Gimmick Puppets. We have Adlib here. He's okay, he's a level 8. He also has a crazy effect where he can actually increase all of your monsters' attack by 100 for every level. So since everything's trying to be like level 8 and everything like that, then he actually gains an extra 800, puts him at 23. So he's almost as strong as a Dark Magician, not quite. And then we have Tragedy. He's like whatever. He helps you find Aluber, which is the second best Gimmick Puppet, so he's alright. Next up, speaking of Dark Magician, we do indeed play the one Dark Magician because he is the ultimate wizard in terms of attack and defense, so you kind of have to play him. I mean, it says he's the ultimate wizard just in the actual card text, so obviously he's the best. Unfortunately, he's level 7, but shout outs to Yugioh for letting me borrow his Starlight. Then we have probably the worst card in the deck, Fallen of Albaz. I mean, it's okay. Helps you get all your fusions to help you find the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. But at the end of the day, he's kind of alright. I mean, he's level 4. He's not that big of a deal. This is a 43 card list, so if you really want to cut it down to 40, you could probably cut this guy. I mean, he's like whatever. Then we have these two. The Bird's cool because he helps you negate monster effects, which means that your Gimmick Puppet's always going to stick. Even if they have like a Bestial or something like that, because you always want to make sure that you can bring him out from the grave. And then the Albion's actually pretty good. So he's a level 8, he's a free body because you can actually pitch a branded card from hand to special summon him. So obviously the whole deck revolves around level 8, so it makes him really good, it makes him really easy to summon. Also, you can also use him to dump Albazes out of your deck. That way you can deck thin because obviously Albaz is a brick. We are playing two Bestials. Lubellion's obviously the best, level 8, he's a light, he's pretty cool. Sarandir's kind of nice because it helps you find Lubellion. Next up, the deck has like a lot of like dudes in it, so I figured it might be best to just throw in some chicks in here just to kind of even it out a little bit, So we do have Quem and Cartesia. They all work with like the Albaz engine, but it's like, I don't know, it's whatever, I guess. They're also tuners, so that's kind of cool. Next up, for the fusion part of the deck, we have Branded Fusion. Just obviously great card. Branded Opening helps you find the second best Gimmick Puppet, so you can find the Branded Fusion. We have Branded Lost because this way, if you actually activate your Branded in red, you can guarantee that the puppet will actually stick. So obviously Lost is really necessary, and that also helps you find the Bird or the Albion, so that way you can have it at level 8. Branded Retribution to recycle your Branded Fusions. Next up, for the utility cards, we have two fusion deployments. Only two because the fusion side of this deck is kind of meh. Obviously you just want to see the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, that's all that really matters. So the fusion deployment is just kind of whatever. We have the 3 Thrust and the Fusion Duplication because you want to see if in case your Branded Fusion gets Ash, this will still let you find your boy Gimmick Puppet, so that's all that really matters. And then 1 Called By, 1 Foolish, just to make sure Branded Fusion resolves. Foolish because obviously you want to see your boy Gimmick Puppet, so if you find them, the sooner the better. Next up, for the going second cards, we have Triple Droll. I really wanted to have an answer for like super combo decks, so this helps me with like Infernoble, with Mana DM, all those kinds of decks, even Pearly too. They can play around it, but if they play around it, then it still hurts them, but it's not going to be like super impactful, but at least it still does something to help slow them down because you just want to stop them from getting 5 materials because this deck kind of has a hard time with dealing with an untouchable body. Next up, we have 2 Fenrir. Just a crazy good card. Level 7, unfortunately, not level 8, but he does have the Banish face down effect, which helps a lot, especially against like weird pesky floodgates like Goes and Match, or you can even like do stuff where if they have like skill drain, you can go Fenrir, target the skill drain, banish it, and then go Branded in red to make Chimera. It's still in the same chain, that way this resolves. 1 Dark Ruler because you can thrust it out, and then 3 Super Poly because we are running a lot of generic fusions in the extra deck, so it makes this live. Next up, for the extra deck, we are running a lot of level 8 fusions because obviously level 8's the name of the game here. And we are running the one of Lenatus because this is actually the one time where Albaz is not a brick. If you're playing against Dragon Link, you can actually set him and then contact fuse everybody into Alba Lenatus, which then gets rid of their whole board, which then means your Gimmick Puppet combo is all alive and good to go. Also, he's really shiny, so that's kind of cool. Then we have Granganol. He's probably the best part of the whole thing because you can actually dump the Gimmick Puppet from your deck, which makes you see him, which means that he's live, which is great. That's obviously the whole point of the deck. Then we have Dragoon because Dragoon's a hell of a card. Chimera for popping stuff, and then the kind of more generic super poly targets are Stapelia, Quertus, and Garura. He's not level 8, but he does have a cool effect where you get to draw a card if he goes to the grave, so you can actually dump him up Granganol if you just want to try to draw for more cards, especially for cards in your side deck, etc. Okay, now but in all seriousness, the side deck, I think I kind of crafted this pretty well for what I expected to see at the tourney. One, Masquerade. So Masquerade is actually only needed in the side because it's only a burn card in reality. So you only need it for game 3. Harpies, because Harpies is good. Jinzo, I did expect to see a lot of lab at this event, so I kind of thought Jinzo would be nice because I could obviously send it for in a line to try to make Sanctifier, and so instead of sending Puppet, you send Jinzo, and then you can actually special Jinzo on your opponent. You probably just do it like during the end phase of a lab turn or something like that, which is kind of nice. Also kind of nice too if you do like hard draw it against Rescue Ace. I was kind of expecting to see 1 or 2 Rescue Ace decks, because if I hard drew it, I could like brand it opening into Aluber and then tribute over it to make a Jinzo or something, which then turns off like the important parts of their engine. Unfortunately, never came up, but it was kind of a cool tech. Next up, we have 3 Cosmic, because Skill Drain and Anti-Spell are a hell of a card. So Cosmic helps out a lot with those matchups. You want something that's a quick play to get rid of. Plus, if I did see any Runic, this dodges the Huggin because they can't protect it if it's getting banished, so Cyclone's always nice. Next up is one of my favorite cards, XD's Encore. This card's been putting in a lot of work for me recently, especially against the stupid Pearly matchup, because obviously they can draw like 4 to 6 cards on your standby phase, and you really don't want them to start like searching for Ash, because obviously you want Bright Infusion to resolve. So you can actually XD's Encore them to get rid of the body before standby phase, and yeah, you'll trigger like the continuous spell and the field spell, but that doesn't really matter because if you're gonna OTK them, they have to burn almost all the cards in their hand to finish off their combo anyway. And so now they have a dead trap on board, and they have a bunch of spells in hand, but you don't really care about that. As long as they don't see the Ash and you can go OTK them that turn, you don't really care. Especially if you can set up presence with like a Dragoon and Mirror Jade, stuff like that. Not to mention that they can't respond to this, so it's really nice. Also, I noticed it also helps me dodges EEV from Cash, because if you draw this or if you have it in hand during your draw phase, you just immediately with player priority get rid of their Arise Heart, or any XYZ that they make that it's like obvious like, okay, this is gonna be like an EEV play, then you can actually get rid of it. And actually XYZ Encore is really nice if you do it on the Arise Heart, because they actually won't get any materials back, because everything gets banished and this says it has to go to grave. You can special them from the grave, but because Arise Heart's effect is still alive while your opponent's detaching materials from it, they actually don't go to grave. So it's actually really nice for that. Next up is Droplet. I expected to see some Sprite with Ibly Lock, and maybe some hero with like Dark Angel. There was a hero player, but I ended up playing against him. If I wasn't prepping specifically for like this event, then maybe I would change these out for like books, because I noticed a lot of people were playing books, and that kind of seemed to go hard during a lot of the matchups, especially against Pearly and against Cash. And last but not least, Tikaboo. We got to run some kind of Floodgate other than just the Puppet, I guess. This is really good because if you're playing into Pearly, so even going first or second against Pearly, this is really solid. I expected a lot of Pearly players because a lot of people around here tend to play that deck, plus they just got new support in Dune, so I kind of expected a few Pearly players to play against. I did end up playing against 2. Unfortunately, I never drew this card, but every time I do, even if I go second, this card still like wipes their board. And if they're sitting on a Noir with no, usually if they use the trap to rank up their Noir into Noir, they'll burn all of the materials on cards that you like set or whatever going into their turn. And so if you just basically flip this, then they're stuck with like that one Noir. They can't summon any more cats. Maybe they can try to summon a Zeus or something like that, but they get rid of all of their recursion with the field spell and the continuous trap, continuous spell and all that kind of stuff. So then after that, I really don't care too much. It just helps me like get rid of basically all their potential setup for the next turn. And obviously going first, it just literally OTKs them. So it's pretty good. That's gonna be it for the list. I hope you guys like the kind of dry comedic spin I threw on it. If you didn't, then I guess sucks for you. But overall, the deck performed really well. I got really lucky because sometimes the deck tends to brick a lot. Especially like there was a tourney I was playing the day before and I was bricking like crazy, drawing like 5 1-ups, stuff like that. And that did happen once or twice during tourney still, but I was still able to play through it. But the deck actually performed really well, allowed me to play the game, which then means I could actually break boards and actually do well. I did end up getting gimmick pupping locking maybe like 2 or 3 times, but it only really mattered in the finals because my opponent, I don't think had really much preparation for this deck. So like I don't know if they were running Ash or not. It was against Pearly. I would imagine that they would if they're playing Pearly, but he never saw it. He wasn't really running anything like Bestials or anything like that. So like, he had no answers to Puppet. So it helped me out like in those games. A lot of the other games ended up getting like hand trapped to death, and I was just kind of forced on just playing on engine. and mostly just playing with just my own ability to like manage resources. But that's what this deck is really good at, so it really performed well in that regard. That's gonna be it. Thank you guys.